Diatonic harmony. Any diatonic chord may progress to any other diatonic chord. The control factor is the relationship between the roots of the chords. This is called root motion and falls into three categories. The strongest diatonic root motion is movement down in fifths, the cycle of fifths. Here we see fifth descending movement. So we've got this G to this C, we've got this F sharp, we're in the key of G, remember, this is an F sharp going down to a B. We've got this E going down to this A, and we're finishing up on this D. So we've got movement here of a fifth, movement here of a fifth down, and movement here of a fifth down. Right, what I want you to do is just a little task, see as I'm doing all the work. I want you to, these are diatonic roots of chords, right? Roots, that is. That means that the root represents the chord. So this note here is G, isn't it? Because we're in bass clef, right? So if you're in the key of G, right, and this is a G, so what chord can that represent if it's diatonic? Well, it's got to represent G, either a G, standard G, G major, or a G major 7th, or a G6, something like that. What I want you to do is go along all these roots and write in the diatonic chords of G major. Okay? So pause the video and do that now. Okay, so this is what you should have got. This is obviously chord 1. This first one, G major, so you would normally write it like this, 1, and because it's a major 7 you'd actually put that in as well, so you go major 7, okay. This is chord 4, obviously G, A, B, C, so this makes chord 4. Chord 4 is a major chord, a major 7th chord in the key of G, so put that down as 4. Notice I'm using Roman numerals, which you should do, and obviously again major 7. It's a bit hard doing this with mouse now. Major 7. So this one here is chord 7. It's the half diminished that leads up back into G. Okay, so this is a dominant chord, so this is written like this: 5, 6, 7. Right, you could just write it like that, really. But because it's a 7th chord, we usually put what it is, so we'll put 7, and then we'll put minor 7, and then flat 5, flat 5, like that. Okay. But usually people just put 7 chord. That's basically the correct one. Here we've got chord number 3, G, A, B. So this is a minor chord, obviously. So that's written like that. 3. Okay. Minor 7. And then this one, E minor, is chord C. What's E minor? Chord 6. Like that. Again, minor 7. And then we've got A minor, which is chord 2. Minor 7. Sorry about that writing, but at least I hope you can follow me. And then you've got this D7, which is 5, 7. Okay? Okay, so that's all the chords written in. I ought to have written them down neater, but you get what I mean. And then here, right, these movements are all down a perfect fifth, right, from, a fifth down, okay? But this one's different. This is going down a fifth from this D to this G, right? Or it's going up a fourth, actually, that one. But the thing about this is, when you get a movement that goes down or up from a dominant 7th chord, that movement's very strong, obviously, because tritone in this D7 is resolving into this G major 7, which is obviously a chord of rest. So because of that movement, what we do is we put an arrow in like that. So obviously we've got repeat signs here in the music, so that D7 is going back to that G, and this cycle will just continue around forever and ever until you know, obviously, well, it's repeated and then you go on, but I've just put it so it just goes round and round. But if that D7 you obviously want it to resolve, it would go to a G chord here, and then it would resolve really well, okay, eventually. So I'll just show you that again. Like I've been saying about bebop, you would very rarely put a G major 7 in. I just wanted to do this to show you that it's 7th chords we're talking about, and the natural 7th on this G would be a major 7th. But like saying bebop, you usually get G chords or G6s. Okay, in fact, you usually write down just G anyway, and then it's up to the piano player whether he wants to play a major 7 or a 6. If you specifically put G major 7, that's what's going to be played. If you put G6, that's what's going to be played. But if you just put G, then the piano player could play a major 7 or a 6. So that's why you've got to watch out for roots, because you don't want to be playing a root on that G major 7 chord like that. I mean, it's all right there because it's in bass, but up top there when you're playing it melody, keep away from the root of the chord, because it'll be on top of that 7th and create a half step, you know, a dissonant interval. Right, so that's that bit. So what I want you to do now is to look at them chords, right? I've actually wrote down I know it's not very good, but you can obviously see that. That's chord 1, chord 4, chord 7, chord 3, chord 6, chord 2, and chord 5. What I want you to do is write down the tensions underneath here. I'll just do this first one for you, right? So you actually know what I'm talking about. Right, on chord number 1, wherever it is in any key, in a major key, chord number 1, the tensions are always the 9th, right, and the 13th. Okay, oops, that's supposed to be a 3. Right, so you write all the tensions down on here. If you've been following what I said in the last video, you shouldn't have any problem writing down the tensions. So I want you to pause the video and write down the tensions, okay? Okay, so I hope you're back with me and you've wrote the tensions down. Well, you should know these by heart, actually. Chord number 4 is always 9. Sharp 11 and 13. One thing I want to say about this sharpened 11. Sharpened 11 on C major 7 is F sharp. F sharp creates a tritone with the root of the chord. So you've got to watch it. If you're moving from this chord to a dominant 7th chord, I would avoid the sharp 11. Right? You're not really going to see that often of it moving. I mean, it is moving to a dominant sounding chord there. So on that particular chord in this situation, I would keep away from that sharp 11. But normally, in jazz, we usually see 4. We see this happening, but it's usually 4 going to 1. You might have a plagal, what British call a plagal cadence, where you get 4 going to 1. But just watch out for that. If this chord, this number 4 chord, is going to a dominant chord, avoid that sharp 11 because it creates a tritone with a root. So on this chord, the 7 minor 7, the tensions are always the 11th and the flat 13. This chord here is 3 minor 7, and on the 3 minor 7, the only tension you can have is the 11th. So the 9th above this on this B minor 7 would be C, wouldn't it? C just here, right? So that's half a step, and the 13th would be a G above the F sharp, so that'd also be a half step, so no good. So you can only have 11th on 3 minor 7. So what about this one, the 6 minor 7? Well, tensions there are always a 9 and 11. Can't have a 13th on that. And on the A minor 7, which is chord number 2, we have the 9th and 11. Like I say, you can play the 13th on a 2 minor 7, but you've got to be careful because it's going to this chord here, this 5/7. It creates a tritone. If you put 13th in, it creates a tritone with the 3rd, and we don't want that, so we avoid that. So we're only playing 9 and 11. But in Dorian mode, you would play a 13th as well, okay? But this is functional harmony where you've got lots of changes, so you don't play a 13th. So I hope you get that. So if you're not so hot with you remembering your tensions, just write little chord sequences out, just like I've done here. And then just do what I've said here. Just write yourself a bass line going in fifths. Write in the chords. Remember, any diatonic chord can follow another diatonic chord. Write it in fifths. Fifths is best. Or you could write it in, well, I'm going to show you some of the other root movements in a minute. And then just do what I've done. Write the chords in and write the tensions in. And it'll be good practice for you, won't it? So, hold on, we've missed one here. What's the tensions on this? We've got a D7 here. Let's have a look. So, we've got a D7, and the tensions on a D7 are 9 on a dominant tension. There you go. 9 and 13. Don't play 11th, dear. Okay, so that's that bit. So that's movement in fifths, and here we have this special movement here of a dominant 7 chord, the main dominant 7 chord, right, moving to the root, and this has a special, because there's a lot more tension being resolved, we put this arrow in. So if you see this arrow, you know that it's a dominant 7th resolving or moving on to a root that is a perfect 5th below. So the arrow represents a dominant 7th, right, moving to a chord with a root that is a perfect 5th below, right. It doesn't have to be a major chord. It can be another dominant chord actually, and we'll still get this root, this movement of an arrow showing the movement, if I remember correctly. Okay, so move on next to fourth movement. I'll just show you some fourth movements, okay? Okay, so now we're looking at perfect fourth movement. So in this little sequence that I've wrote, you can see that we're moving down a perfect fourth. Obviously, this G to D7 is moving down a perfect fourth because D, E, F, G, obviously. Then we've got D7 to A7, which is A, B, C, D, again a fourth. We're jumping up a fifth. Then we're moving down a fourth to this B minor, jumping up a fifth again, and we're moving down a fourth to this C chord. All right, from this F sharp to this C. So that's movement in fourths. I'll just pause the video and just write in the Roman numerals above. I'll just tell you what they are, and I'll tell you what the tensions is. So write the normal numerals above and write the tensions of these chords below. Okay? I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I hope you paused the video and done that. Right, it's a bit tricky this. I did this on purpose because it's a little bit tricky. That is chord number 1, obviously, because we're in the key of G major. But the tensions on a G trad, you can only have the 9th on that chord. Okay. On this one here, you can have, it's a 7th chord, so you can have the 13th and the 9th as tensions. This is chord 5, by the way. This one, A7, is chord 2, and on a 2 chord you can only have the 9th and the 11th. You don't want that 13th because it creates that tritone, right? Although we're not moving into a dominant chord here. On this one, which is the 6 minor chord, you can only have the 9th. Remember, this is a trad chord, not a 7th chord, so there's only one you can have is 9th. Here we've got the 3 minor chord. On a 3 minor chord, you can't have any tensions. You can't have any tension in the B minor chord. Okay. On this one, which is the 7th chord, obviously you can have the 11th and the flat 13th, and on the C chord again you can have the 9th. Okay, so that's the tensions on that. Okay, so here we've got stepwise root movement. We're just moving G, A, B, C, B, A, G, C, D, E, D. As you can see, it's all moving in steps apart from this jump here. I've put a suspended 4th chord in. What it does is it makes this kind of like a subdominant chord, so we don't get that movement. You remember I was saying you've got a very strong movement that we do with an arrow. If I can just flick this. Got this very strong movement there of an arrow. So that's going to the G here, right? But you don't put this strong arrow here because that isn't considered to be a straight dominant 7th chord. D7 suspended 4th is kind of more like a subdominant chord. I'm going to be talking about this in future, so I don't even want you to worry about this. All I want you to get from this is that we've got stepwise root movement. If you want to work out the chord names at the top, which if you want to, you can do. I won't tell them you because it's so easy, aren't they? It's all diatonic keys, so just look at the key and then you can put them all down. This particular one here you would call a 5 sus4 chord, okay? This D7, okay? Because it's obviously not, you don't get a sus chord when you're building up from the scale, so that'd be called a 5 sus, analysed as 5 sus4. And you can work the tensions out if you want to. Good practice for you. But I'm not going to give you the answers now. I'm going to move on because I just want to show you that stepwise root motion. So the next one would be motion of third. So we'll skip to that now, okay? Okay, so here we see movement in thirds. G to E, down a third. C to A, down a third. E to G to B, a third. A to C a third, and E to D stepwise. So that's looking at it in thirds. So this I've gone through 4 main root movements that you probably see. There is more root movements, but these are the 4 main ones, right? You've got perfect 5th, down a perfect 5th, down a perfect 4th, down a third, and stepwise motion. Okay. So just to recap, you can go movement down in 5ths, down in 4ths, down in 3rds, and down stepwise. Okay, so movement seems to always go down. Like I was saying, if you've been watching my other videos, if you do arranging or whatever, if you've done arranging, you always find that the harmony wants to move downwards. And root movements are like that. They seem to want to move down, you know what I mean? They don't always move down. They can move up and down. But in general, things move downwards, okay? So I'll leave you to it. So I'll let you think about those root movements and what I've said in this video. And I don't know what we'll be doing next in the next video. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.